Well, it's like this. When I was 12 years old, I was at my camp in Northwood, around Lucas Pond, and I was up in the woods playing, having a good time, looking around, as kids do.
Yep.
And I saw what I thought was some weird guy walking through the woods, as my father called him, some old dirty hippie. So I brushed it off as that. And then a couple years goes by, and there was a show back in my day, because you got a couple more ice cream seasons to catch up with me, but it was called In Search Of. And
Leonard Nimoy.
Leonard Nimoy, yes.
Do not.
Well, only because of Star Trek, you know who he is.
No, I know of In Search Of.
You're that old?
No, I've just studied it because I've been investigating
yeah.
Bigfoot for a few years.
Well, that was my first time that I saw that, and I'm like, it kind of light dawned to Marblehead, because I had now put a name to what I had seen.
Yeah.
And when I told my father that that's what I saw, because, my old man, being my old man, was, shut up, you didn't see you goddamn fool. It was probably just somebody running around trying to scare you. So for a long time, I was in disbelief of it. And then later on down the road, when I was, 15, 16, I guess, 17, I was out there fishing at a little brook, creek, as you want to call it, called the Stingy River. And I heard a stick snap, the typical story that you hear.
Yep.
And I turned around and I saw something move behind the banking that I was down on. So it was up past my point of view. And I assumed it was somebody that I knew or whatever. So I went up, and this thing was walking away from me. By that time, it had already traveled probably 50 feet by the time I got to the banking, because, short legs, vertically challenged.
Yeah.
But because it was kind of a muddy banking and stuff, so by the time I climbed myself up there, it had been walking away, and it looked like a big, hairy, naked person. You know what I mean? That's all the only way I can describe it. And,
How tall?
well, I really weren't a good judge of height at that point, but if I had to guess, it was probably 7.5 feet tall. Knowing what I know now, I'd say it was probably somewhere around 700 pounds, maybe. When it finally realized that I had come up over the bank, and because, it beat feet and it covered ground that I couldn't cover, let alone, on a dead run. But then there was a couple more times, I had seen a few other things, but that was my big intro to it, was when I seen it in Lucas Pond area, and then I saw it again. And when, Leonard Nimoy, as you said,
yeah,
he shed light on it for me to knowing what I was looking at. And then it was out of control after that for me, because I needed to know. I wanted answers. I wanted to know where, what, when, why, what, how, whatever, you know what I mean?
So many people have described it was there and it was just gone. A lot of the Native Americans say if you were seen one, you were more than lucky, because it decided to let you see it. If it didn't want to be seen, it ain't gonna be walking out in the road. When you got all these dark woods and you see a car coming, wouldn't you just step back behind the tree? But they seem to walk out and just take a look at the car coming and almost letting it be seen.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but I've had 2 really good vocalizations, and I've had 2 cases where a small tree got snapped and slammed to the ground. So out of 20 years, only 4 that I would call, I have nothing to prove or show for it, but I know what it was,
Yeah.
There's no animals out there that do that. These things literally snapped and slammed into the ground. Not huge trees, but big enough.
Yeah.
Big enough that it was time to go. Like, I want to see, I'm curious and all this, but when you get something like that at 50 yards maybe, a tree slamming up, it's time to go for me. I'm pretty convinced.
Yeah.
If a tree falls in the woods, does anybody hear it? So how does anybody really know what happened? We take a look. It's kind of dead on the ground, flat. So likely, it probably fell from this tree. Nothing fancy with it. I don't see anything interwoven.
You see the broken part up there?
Yeah.
Bigfoot jumped up, reached, grabbed it,
Well,
pulled it to the ground. Listen, it's unexplainable, I get it, but that's what happened.
well,
That's what they'll say to you.
yeah, of course.
So my thing is I'm trying to figure out what's real, what's not real, right? Because a lot of people are telling me one thing is real and then they say other things. And so that's what I'm trying to get to the bottom of, you know?
So I think things like this, you know, you can tell me that Bigfoot did that.
Yeah.
I know it didn't. I got to decide whether or not I want to waste my time arguing with you, or I go back and kind of make my assumption. And I think that's the trick with Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And what people say and what they don't. You know, some people might be trying to hoax you because maybe they think you're naive as an investigator, or they don't realize that you're in tune to the surroundings as they are. So that's another thing when we come to these reports, is kind of reading the person telling the story.
I've never really heard your full story about why you believe in Bigfoot and the evidence you've seen and what's compelled you to continue searching.
It's crazy because I'm a guy that didn't go out looking for anything.
Right.
I own 3 acres in what's called the Bridgewater Triangle in Massachusetts, and it abuts 94 acres of conservation. About a mile out is what's called the Taunton River.
Yep.
And I own the property since 2002, and I'd say about 2008 or so, I started noticing different noises, sounds from the woods. So I started hearing walking around and breaks and stuff. It didn't think much of it. I found myself at night, like on the couch, going, what was that sound? You know what I mean? Like, what was out there breaking stuff? And it went on, this went on for months, like 6 months. And then I started noticing events happening at my house closer to me.
Okay.
One particular time I was out in the yard raking around this fire pit I have, cleaning up all the loose wood and stuff. And I heard something walk, and I didn't look yet. I was raking, and I heard about I'd say about 8 to 10 inch elm or oak snap in one pull. It went, and I turned like this, and I just saw it coming down. And it was in my property. You have to understand, I have a game trail.
Yeah.
It's all dense woods. It opens up into a clearing and then goes back to dense woods and wetlands, right? Yep. So I just froze. I absolutely froze. And I went, what in the hell was that? So I grabbed my phone, I held my phone up, and I said, come on, where you at? And I held my phone up, and you can hear it on my YouTube channel. The thing goes, but I couldn't see it. I swear it had to be no more than 50 yards from me, but it was locked into that dense area. And at first I was brave, right? You get that man thing, and I'm like, this is your property, this is my, yeah, Richie B. And I'm like, you know.
No, to Bigfoot, you're Richard.
Yeah, hello, Richard. And I'm like, you stay there, I'll stay here, this is my property, and I'm talking to it, and then I go, and then it hits me, the fight or flight human thing hits me, like, what am I doing? I just heard a guttural sound with a creature I can't see.
Yeah.
So I have about an acre of grass fenced in, so I started backing up to the street where I felt safer. And I literally had my hands on my knees like this, and I had a process.
Yep.
And it went on for like 5 minutes, and then I called a buddy of mine, and he's a preacher in South Carolina. And I'm like, I call him and I said, I'm gonna send you a video, and I don't know what just happened in my life, but it changed. And he's like, what are you talking about? And I sent it, and he goes, dude, something growled at you. And I said, yeah, man. I said, remember all the noises I told you I've been hearing? He's like, yeah. I said, I just put something physical with it, right? So from there on, I started getting really crazy with the research.
Yeah.
I wanted to know more because I was always into paranormal. I was a paranormal investigator for many years. I studied ghosts. My family had a team. And then, so I started using that type of research. So I started going and going and going. And then I went through all these, like, no offense, but, you know, there's like the Bigfoot production and, you know, things like that. I wanted to see things that weren't happening behind the scene. I wanted boots on the ground knowledge.
Yeah.
So I started following Alex Petikoff.
Okay.
And that was a little further in because he's a little bit younger, but there was other guys I watched too that were just raw, boots on the ground, documentary, out in the woods, hearing things. You're part of the investigation, right? They're not editing this or that. And I'm like, yeah, what is it? Yeah, I heard that, you know?
Absolutely.
And so I just kept going with it. And then Alex became my go-to. And I went through I blew through all his stuff because I just kept watching it.
Right.
And then in the meantime, I was having more and more things happen.
Okay.
I'm a structures guy. A lot of people aren't, but you can say what you want. We're not in a scientific field. There's nothing scientific about it, actually. Yeah. Technically, right? Right. So I'm like, don't leave any stone unturned.
What are you looking for when it comes to these structures? What are like identifying factors that you say this looks like a Bigfoot structure?
So it's just eliminate the natural. So it's just eliminate the natural for me. I just eliminate the natural. So I break things down. If I see, like I've seen arches that come like this, right? You have an arch like this, and then there's another one intertwined and arched with it. and there's two of them together, and I'm like, how does frozen ice and wind and, you know, and again, I'm not an outdoor wilderness expert or anything,
Right.
but I try to eliminate the natural, and then I do the percentage of, right? So I look at it and say, all right, I've eliminated the natural. What are the chances you need thumbs to do that?
Yeah.
Right? Where do the thumbs come in? I have a tree on, and it's on my YouTube. It's 360 twisted and then pushed down. That's not a deer rub. That's not an antler. I don't have bear. And if I did, it would be a pushover. Right? So this thing is twisted 360 and then pushed down. So what does it take to twist something 360 would be these.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, so we need thumbs. I've eliminated the natural. So I'm trying to, like, there's people that in this area, you know, they don't believe in it. They don't believe in structure, and that's fine. Nobody shits on me because I don't, you know, because I follow structures, right? But I don't shit on them either because they don't believe it.
Yeah.
That's how we work together in this community.
Yeah.
You know, I take a little bit cafeteria style from everybody. Like, I love Alex Petikoff. Won't talk to you about structures.
Yeah.
Zero chance. It ain't happening. And Crystal as well. She's a little open-minded to it. Dave McCollough from Squatchachusetts is open to it. Mike Trainer, you just saw walk by. The Vogels even, I'll talk to them. They have a lot of great explanations for things. And they're outdoor wilderness guides.
Yeah.
So they're out in the woods all the time.
Yeah.
Tim Vogel lives on 1,300 acres and is a forest ranger.
We'll have to get him over here. Yeah.
Oh, you must speak to them.
We had a great talk with him.
Oh, you must speak to the Vogels. Highly recommend.
Absolutely.
And I've sent them pictures of stuff that they can't explain.
Okay.
So I don't just try to make things up and say, hey, look at me, click and view. Yeah. That ain't what I'm doing. What I'm doing is sending it out to other people that have more knowledge than I do.
Absolutely.
Like you should, like a DNA or anything else, right? You send it out to those guys, they've seen everything.
Right.
And when they come back and they don't want to answer the question, but then they go, I don't know what it is. That's what I want.
All right, so we're here with Dave McCollough, who is, you're quite active in Massachusetts and dealing with Sasquatch there. So tell us kind of a little bit about your work and how you got started with Bigfoot and kind of where your discoveries have led you, things you've seen, you've witnessed, encounters you've had, and just a little bit about yourself.
Sure, I'm from Massachusetts, like I said, Lowell. Had a lifetime interest in it from watching the old shows back as a kid, in search of unsolved mysteries and all that. And then more into UFOs and the other stuff. And once in the 90s, when the BFRO started publishing reports, Bigfoot reports, and there started being websites and groups, really learned a lot more of how it's more of an East Coast. I thought everything was out in the West Coast, and really got involved. Then I just got so curious because there's hundreds and hundreds of reports. I just got reading them, you know, report after report. And I'm like, there's got to be something to this. Then I find out it's worldwide. It's not just the United States, but and then I went on a BFRO expedition in Whitehall, New York.
And how old were you when that happened?
When I first went on expedition was 20 years ago. It would be 39. So going out and meeting some witnesses out in New York, some police officers that were involved in the case. It's a really famous case. 3 village police, 3 Vermont police, because it's right on the border of Vermont, New York State Police.
That's Abear Road.
Yes.
So we went out to Whitehall. That's actually how I met Mike. We did an event out in Whitehall and learned all about that. And so you went on an expedition out there.
I did, with the BFRO 2004.
Yep.
And got taken to the golf course where it was seen, talked to him for a while. And then I met, like I said, I met the police that were involved, and they were very forthright. A couple of them were retired, so they didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't.
Gordon.
Yep. Brian Gosselin.
Brian Gosselin. Yeah, we met him. Yep. He's a character.
Yeah, real nice. And then a couple other guys that were. By then they weren't worried about their careers, so they were very honest about it, and they knew what they saw, and they were saying. Brian Gosselin was actually telling me there was a couple cops. They all met up later at a only diner in Route 4 coming into Whitehall. They all met, and he said a couple of them were holding their coffee and their hands shaking. I didn't see nothing. I didn't see nothing. They didn't want to be involved. So then I just got the bug of, wow, there's really something to this, and I started looking in New England into the history of. Goes as far back as the Native Americans can go. The Vikings' first trip to North America was It's written in their sagas, same
So
description.
yeah, so where do you find like, so you're saying there was writings of Bigfoot in the Viking,
Sagas, yeah.
so where do you find that? Like, where does that information come from?
I think on the first explorations of Leif Erikson
Okay.
and the famous Vikings that were the first ones
And
in
these are in
North America.
Viking, these are Viking legends, they're Viking.
It's in the sagas. It's called sagas,
Okay.
which would be their journals.
Okay.
And they reported the same thing. Hairy giants, stinky, something to it. And then, long Native American history too, where it just all ties together that
Okay.
of all these people all around the country and around the world seeing something that doesn't exist, and they don't know each other, they all have the same stories,
Yeah.
same descriptions.
So since you and I have been talking about Bigfoot, one of the things that keeps coming up, and it's a little different than Bigfoot we hear from the West Coast down south, and that's the woods devil.
Yep.
You don't mind telling us a little bit about the woods devil and your some of the stories that you've heard and kind of the difference, how is it unique to New Hampshire, and
Now, is this the Danville devil monkey?
No.
Oh, this is different.
this is different.
Okay.
A wood devil.
It actually enlightened me on what that is.
Well, it's. I think it's. To me, I think it's just another species that
Okay.
hasn't been named. Pin hasn't been put on it yet, but it's not of huge stature as far as like the presence of like a Bigfoot. Everybody describes, big bulky machine.
Yeah.
Where this is more. No offense, Mike, but like
Seriously.
built like Mike,
Right.
maybe a little taller.
Lanky.
Extremely quick. I've had people describe it to me as like when you see a coyote or an animal with mange and the skin has that silverish tinge to it, that leathery look, with sporadic spots of hair and things like that, or fur, or however you want to describe it. Rapid, they're very fast. What I've been told, I don't want to say witnessed, but to hear something here and then all of a sudden it's over there and it's through the woods. Deer don't sprint that fast, things like that. And it seems to be whenever you hear a story of it, on any of it or all of it, it's always the same opportunity. It's one person by themselves. They can't describe what it was. It wasn't afraid of them. Stared him down. Then it beat feet. And it seems to be in. It seems to be in like farmed areas where there's livestock and things like that, which brings me back to the opportunity, I would say. You know what I mean? And I don't know of what.
Do you think it's a carnivore?
I would say so, yes. Because everybody describes it with the sharp canine teeth and, because everybody plays it up. Everything they see, everybody plays it up anyways, that it's severely vicious, full of teeth, like a bear trap. But as with any animal, I mean, what happens when you come up onto an animal?
They get scared.
Right, they get spooked, they take off. Not necessarily that they don't think that they can take you, but why are you here? Right. I mean, if you try to follow a squirrel, that squirrel's going the other direction because its nuts are over there. You know what I mean? It don't want you near its home or its food.
Sure.
So I think that when they take off to get away from the person. As in general, you're a threat no matter how big or small you are.
Right.
And the smaller you are, the more you become prey. So, you hear stories like up in, Northwest Canada and Alaska where, people have gone missing, kids have been stolen, blah, blah, blah. Possibly, maybe. I don't know if I buy it, but when, a catamount or a cougar or anything, if they see a small animal, a kid or anything, it would be food. Yeah.
Where do you lie in the Patterson Gimlin film? You think it's?
I think that's one of my hard and fast pieces of evidence to me.
Let me ask you this then: credible video evidence sense.
Of how many?
Have you seen any other credible video?
I think there is. I think there's, in my book, 10 to a dozen that are really hands down, no doubt, that have been analyzed. Certain things are just too tough to fake.
Yeah.
And the Paul Freeman film, I think that'd be right up there. The Memorial Day footage. Some have just been analyzed so much that couldn't have been a human.
So do you think the Paul Freeman film is real?
I do. That's one of my, one of the few that I think is legit. And he's,
Because that's definitely a controversial one.
right. He was on, before he got that film, well, actually after he got the film, he was on a circuit showing it. And he was asked a question on, I think it was the Mike Douglas show or one of the talk shows. And to find out if he was being faked himself, he was casting his own tracks. So he said that on TV. He goes, oh, I've made my own tracks on my own foot. So they edited to make it look like, oh, he's making all these. But he was a forestry worker who had seen them a handful of times. And he was just he went out so much that, and he lived there. And he just, I think, the right place at the right time. He got so many tracks, casts. Then he got the video. It's, that's tough to fake too. You can see how big and lumbering it is. Mm. And there's one spot in it where he's walking across and it stops between a very thin tree. And you kind of lose it. If you look at the video and keep watching it, you kind of lose it for a second. And until it turns and takes off again, the sun hits it and then it looks gray. So when it's coming down, it's all black. It's in the shadows, but it's pretty big and pretty, when you have all the casts to go match with it and corroborate it, so many sightings up that way.
So we have about 10.
He had nothing to lose. He was a forestry worker.
Yeah.
A lot of his employees, I've read a few interviews with him, were saying, hey, don't touch that, you know. Don't ask about it. But that made him more curious.
Yeah.
That's what made him, I want to see this thing. And he eventually did. And he's seen it enough that he was just happened on the day where he's ready to go and just got really lucky.
Yeah.
So I think there's a good over 10 or 12 that are really legit videos.
What do you think population of Bigfoot is across the U.S.?
That's a tough one. I've been asked that a lot. I think it's more than people would estimate. There's reports in every state in the country. A lot of them more than others. The West Coast.
Michigan has a lot.
Ohio, Michigan, that midsection there.
New York,
Florida, Georgia.
Yeah.
Alabama, all the southern states, they have different
California.
descriptions. I personally think there's more than one kind.
You think there's different species among?
I do, as far as like the Patterson creature.
Yeah, because of climates and whatnot.
Yeah.
You'd have
The
to.
environment.
The Florida ape would have to be different than the northern ape.
Yeah. Yep. Some tracks have been found that look more like a hand, actually, almost down in the south.
Yeah, because it's a bit more jungle climate.
Yeah. Swampy.
Yep.
And a lot of the reports, they're not as big. I think they top out in the south like 6-7 feet.
Okay.
Whereas
up north it's 8 to 9.
Right. Or bigger, yeah.
Yeah, or larger. Right.
Yeah.
What was the suspected height of the Whitehall one?
Whitehall, I think about 8 feet.
Yeah.
I've been up there a few times, and they used to have a telephone pole where it stood.
Yeah.
And they've since, a few years ago, they cut it down, but they had a marker where I think Brian Gosselin estimated, and they put the marker there. And
are you familiar with any like physical, biological evidence found?
just forensics, outside of, there's been like hundreds of hand samples turned in.
Yeah.
Hair that comes back unclassified. They just can't match it up to anything. DNA, there's been a lot of DNA samples.
Do you know where they're sampling this?
I believe out of Texas A&M, there's a woman, Melba Ketchum, and there's been a lot of samples that come back that it's a human female with an unknown male that has come back several times on several samples. And samples have come in from all around the country. There's a lot of audio evidence where they can tell that tape hasn't been doctored, and same thing, it's an unknown vocalization. The vocal range doesn't match up with human or any other animal. There's all forms. The footprints with the dermal ridges for me that's when it gets into forensics, when you get the fingerprint lines, and a lot of droppings have been found. Same thing, unclassified, they can't match it to nothing. So all this stuff comes back unclassified. What does that, to me, what does that tell you, you know?
Haven't been able to put that puzzle together,
Right,
so it's still
right.
unknown.
Like, where does this go? We have everything else in the catalog, but, you know, how much more do you need, you know? Outside of a body.
Yeah.
And that's what they say you need.
So why don't you think we found a body yet?
Again, this is all conjecture. I've heard a lot of times they have been recovered and just swept under the rug. There's a history of giant bones being unearthed from the 1920s and 30s. That the box disappeared at the Smithsonian Institution. I mean, these are like 9-10 foot skeletons, you know. And
What year was that?
that was in the early 30s, I believe. Cases in the wildfires out west, firefighters have seen them. They've actually, again, this is all stories,
Sure.
but
That's all we have to go off of right now, right?
they've supposedly rescued a couple that were burning in the fires, and older ones that couldn't get out.
Sure.
Mount St. Helens, allegedly, they've found stuff. I think they don't want you to know about it. I think it's one of those things where
You think the government's hiding anything?
I do. I think they're maybe not hiding it. They're just not being forthright about, you know, you look at what a lot's tied up into it is the logging industry.
Yeah.
A lot of these rural areas, that's their money. That's where, especially in Maine, New Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
Yeah.
They don't want anything known about that. They don't want to report it to groups because then you got people coming in with cameras.
Well, that's
and
one thing we talked about with the main Bigfoot Foundation is that they're they're very tight with their information and who they let in and not. And even Lauren Coleman told us he works with a lot of groups that don't want any notoriety. They don't want to be on camera. They don't want to talk about stuff.
Yeah.
So that, of course, makes us want to dig a little deeper to ask more questions. And we've had an invitation, but to go up there and work with Mike Vachon and Pete Small. We haven't got there yet. But that's something that we're looking to do. And I was up in Wrangley Lake just a couple days ago, and literally there's nothing. Once you get past Berlin, New Hampshire, you got a small town called Errol.
Yeah.
And it's literally a small town, like 70, 90 miles of nothing until you get like to the next
low
town.
population town.
Trees, water, everything's up there.
Everything they need. That's why they're there in those areas, in my opinion.
So let me ask you this. You're a Merrimack Valley guy. I'm kind of a northern Merrimack Valley guy. I live outside of Concord, New Hampshire. So kind of you're in Lowell, we're up here. Most people think of Massachusetts Merrimack Valley as suburbia, right? Just overgrown. It's the birthplace of the American Industrial Revolution. But we're also seeing a lot of reclaimed land. Do you think Bigfoot is in southern New Hampshire, northern Mass? Do you think they're here?
I do. We've had stuff along the Mass-New Hampshire border over the last 6 years, maybe. Mason, New Hampshire.
Okay.
Ashburnham, Mass, Ashby, Mass, Townsend. It's very, just like you said, not a lot of people and a lot of woods.
Yeah.
So it makes the perfect habitat, in my opinion. And I really do. Outside of those cities, like, I live in the city, so probably good 20 minutes, then it starts getting no buildings, no.
Right.
When you gotta drive a half hour to get to a store, you know you're in the right.
Yeah.
You know.
Would you, in your opinion, would you say that Bigfoot is migratory?
I think seasonally, it's tough to say. I really don't think they move that far because there's sightings in the winter, some summer. Every season there's sightings, sorry. But, when it gets really cold, I don't know. I think they just build shelters, caves. Canada, they're up in Canada.
Yeah.
They don't.
So it would go back to kind of the different species and.
Right.
Okay. People have said that there is a cave system that runs from Appalachian to Kentucky out to the kind of the southwest. that Bigfoot travels through there. Do you know anything about that at all?
I've seen maps. There's 2 maps. They're right next to each other. One is Cave Systems of North America, and then there's one of Bigfoot sightings. And then there's another map of missing people in the USA.
Yeah.
And it seems they all have very similar locations.
Okay.
But I don't think the missing persons thing has a lot to do with Bigfoot. I think that is more something else, alien related. Who knows? I've seen.
Well, do you think that Bigfoot then, because you believe it's paranormal, do you think it ties in with aliens at all? Some think it does.
I used to rule it out. I don't anymore because I've been doing. I've had more orb and freaky light experience than Sasquatch, and I think I've had 4 good Bigfoot ones. But I've just last year, I know I saw one. I know what I saw. You know, not to change gears and go into UFOs, but
well, at some
there
point
could be a
we might have to
correlation.
make a trip out because we're going to be doing that in the future here. So we might have to make a trip out to where you are. We're right in Mass. So
Yeah,
we
yeah.
can talk about it in the future.
So, do you think that the woods devils are like a subspecies of Bigfoot, or do you think it's its own thing?
I don't know. I think that's a good question. A lot of people have leaned towards it being Bigfoot, but with all the stories that you hear, the characteristics are so different. You know what I mean? From what the norm is, I guess you would say, for what a Bigfoot does and the actions that they take and their habits. The wood devil is more here, poof, gone, and they seem to be. They seem to be more.
Elusive is the common term.
Yes, the more elusive.
They hide behind trees.
Right,
They
they play
freeze.
peekaboo with you. They stop, you know, mid track. They'll stop and they won't even look. These are some of the stories that I've been told. They just stop, and if they make eye contact with you, they don't break eye contact. And now I've heard that kind of thing about with Bigfoot. You know, if they make eye contact with you, they don't break the eye contact.
Yeah.
But everybody says Bigfoot blinks.
So everything that I've heard from the researchers I've spoken to, those characteristics sound vastly different than a Bigfoot.
Right, and that's my gathering on it,
Yeah.
that they are 2 different things. I mean, that, like I was saying about the whole eye contact thing, everybody talks about when they see a wood devil and they come face to face with it. Well, everybody's face to face, but 50 feet, 100 feet, they don't blink. They don't break eye contact. They just sit there and watch you. And to me, that sounds to me more like actions of a cat.
Yeah, because a
Even cats will do
Bigfoot
that.
doesn't. That's not characteristic of a Bigfoot at all. They
Right.
get out of there, or you see it and then it's gone. So
Right.
there's no stare down.
Right.
No Mexican standoff.
Right, and is that politically correct?
You care?
No, not at all.
Whoa, this guy.
But no, I think that
Mexico, Maine.
Mexico, Maine, correct? Yes, by the desert, and they. A lot of people claim, that when they see either one of them, the Bigfoot or the wood devil, you never hear the same story about one versus the other. You know what I mean? There's always a different mannerisms, if you want to say, different actions. Like you said, Bigfoot seem to be fleeting, where the wood devil theory on it is they'll stop.
Lurk a little bit.
They'll lurk. They'll see what you're doing. They'll peekaboo. They'll back away from you, and they'll zig and zag when they back away from you. And they don't, like I said, they don't break the eye contact. They don't take and look at you and then bolt.
Yeah.
They back up and they move away from you a lot more rapid than say you or I could or whatever, or him. But they do. You thought you were safe.
I made it in the movie.
That's right. But yeah, that's my take on the wood devil thing, and I believe that they are carnivore. I think they're more of a, because they seem to be, everybody talks about them being more rapid movement. They're faster than the Bigfoot deal. But
So, I want you guys both to talk a little bit about the Danville Devil Monkey. Maybe we start with you, Mike.
Mike's more solid on it.
Yeah. So I actually want to hear about this because it's something we haven't touched on as much. You both being from New Hampshire, this is kind of a story that's in your hometown. So I want to hear about what you guys think is kind of the validity of this story, what's solid, what's concrete. So go ahead, tell us a little bit about what the background of that is.
Danville Devil Monkey story starts in 2001. Late summer, Fire Chief David Kimball had spotted a monkey-type creature jump out of the woods in front of his truck, ran along the side of the road for a little bit. And
Yeah, that was Iron Community, right? Iron Wheel Community or something like that over there, right?
maybe.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. Feel free, because that's one of our next things is getting some boots on the ground and just kind of getting to know that story a little bit better and put that together. Back in 2001, late summer, Fire Chief David Kimball saw a monkey jump out of the woods, run along the side of his truck, and then dip back in. He reported to be like 8 feet long, and he was the first person in town to really kind of speak up and say, hey, we saw something. And after that, other reports just started kind of flooding in. And so people around town were reporting seeing monkeys running through the woods, or a monkey running through the woods. Some parents kept their kids inside. Researchers started showing up and started making the media, the local radio stations were coming in and reporting on it. They had researchers come in, and so almost overnight there became a circus in Danville. And right when it was about to just kind of explode to national news, 9/11 happened, and the planes crashed in the World Trade Center, and then the world didn't care about a loose monkey.
Right. It was irrelevant at that point.
Yeah.
But also, don't hesitate to mention that actual personal friend of ours that we grew up with was. I mean, I won't drop his name because he's a good guy, and
Could I interview him at some point? Give me a connect?
I'm sure I could if you could see him.
All right, cool.
Because he's probably about 8 feet tall himself. But he'll be at our event. He was actually an officer, and he was on duty one night when one of the calls came in, wasn't he, if I remember right?
Yeah, that's what he said.
And I don't know if I think he just took the report. Is that what happened? Or did he actually have a
Well, see, that's
sighting?
where we're excited, too, to sit down and get kind of the bottom of that. With
Right. Yeah, I don't mean to put the cat before the horse. I'm sorry, but...
Yeah. But we've made connections to tell this story, and not to kind of go back on it, I guess, but in 2012 there were more reportings of monkey sightings in Danville. Now the monkey stories don't stop in Danville on these two occasions. Right. There's lots of stories of monkeys running around all throughout New England. As a matter of fact, in 2009, there was a gibbon that escaped here from Charmingfare Farm. It bit a zookeeper and took off. And I believe they got it back and everything. But it just goes to show that whether it's a cryptid, an unknown species, or an actual animal, these events happen. Things really go on.
Right.
And it's getting to the bottom of it because these are still unsolved mysteries.
And going back to the whole, like you touched on the zoo thing. You remember that unrelated zoo incident that was in Epping at the Peterson Farm, where they had a private zoo that wasn't even on the books. Nobody knew about it, and somebody was keeping lions and what was it? Lions, and there was please don't say tigers, bears, oh my. And there was monkeys, and I believe there was a couple of Black Panthers or something like that as well.
Wow.
And they actually had like 8 sightings of a panther running through Epping and West Epping, Fremont area, because that was only right up until winter hit, and then everything just went quiet on that situation. I would have to say probably because they would die off from the cold, not being.
And this was at the same time, 2009.
No, I think that was more. I'm sorry about that. I probably should have put a timeline to that. That was more around like what was that? 88?
Oh wow.
So
89.
Maybe it's more vague with me for my memory, but
even though it was.
And then in 2009, what was the animal that ran away again?
From here?
Yeah.
A gibbon.
Oh, a gibbon. Yeah.
And I'd love to actually talk to Crystal about that.
Yeah,
she did some research, and
we definitely will.
Handed me sent me some stuff about some of the monkey research that she's done. So the point is that these events actually happen, but now 20 years have gone by, and we have legends now.
Right, they're
these
cold ashes.
incidents has turned into these fables, these legends, and these mysteries,
where people start putting the pieces together
Yeah.
themselves.
Right. Absolutely.
So if you go on like any of these crypto sites, they talk about the devil monkey as
Absolutely.
being this beast from hell,
Right,
ravishing
right.
through, and whether that's true or not, we have to get to the bottom of that with, try to find some eyewitness accounts if they're still around and willing to talk, or we just get to the bottom of what it is, because if somebody sees a monkey and they're sure they see a monkey, perhaps it's a monkey.
Well, going back to the whole thing of the devil monkey, the name and all that, I have heard stories about the devil monkey going back.
I think it's just like 1930s, 20s.
Yeah, I was going to say like
All
the
through
30s,
Appalachia.
because my father actually told a story about it when he was a kid out hunting on a wood lot, because his father was a logger, and they were out doing it, and my old man remember saying that my grandfather had to grab him and scoff him up and take off with an axe in his hand, because he was carrying a double-sided axe, however you want to call it, and they took off. Now, my grandfather, he was a hulking dude, you know what I mean? He'd grab any one of us and snap us like a fly. But my father said that was the first time he had ever seen my grandfather scared of anything. And because he couldn't explain what it was that he saw, and he described it, and I don't want to say that he coined the phrase, because like Mike said, I think it just, they want to say Appalachian legend that has come up through, I don't know, Kentucky, Tennessee, wherever, but I believe that that's where the name for them came from, was from that.
So that's back to the 1930s?
Yeah. So it's not something that was new when it came to the devil monkey, but the whole Danville monkey, that was something that was, I think that was more of a...
It became close to home.
Right.
And it was a big event that everyone was talking about at the time until we weren't. And then
Right.
We've kind of looked back at that like, hey, you remember that devil monkey story, or that monkey story from Danville? It's
become
then you do
irrelevant.
the research, and it becomes a devil monkey.
Yeah.
And now we have this onion that we want to peel.
Now, supposedly, around that time with that whole devil monkey situation, there was a place on Lord Road in Lebanon, Maine, which is just over the border, the other side of
This is around the same time as Danville.
Yes. Well, there was a facility up there that supposedly worked on animals. Now, I don't know if this is true or not, but supposedly when the government shut it down, they opened the gates and walked away. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but that was a story that I had heard many times, and there was actually, I don't want to say it and sound terrible, but I guess they were described as gypsies that just kind of moved into the land, and they had a lot of trouble with animals. And they were getting chased off and being attacked, and supposedly some woman got her back laced open from what they assumed to be a cat.
Wow.
So, and I don't know if it was, I'm not saying it was genetically modified or anything like that, but supposedly they were doing some type of testing on animals, and when they were done, they unlocked the doors and walked away.
Wow. Richard, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Where's the body? Where's Bigfoot's body? Why haven't we found one?
Listen, first of all, a lot of things decay pretty rapidly when you're dealing with compost. As far as animals go, I don't see a lot of bear bones either. You know what I mean? I find kill sites and stuff like that, but a lot of the bones are missing, right? Yeah, there's a bear pelt there, but I think that's Mike's blanket he sleeps with at night.
Cuddles.
Yeah,
Spoons it.
yeah, he noticed the face on it.
Small spoon.
Yeah,
Little spoon.
But so I don't necessarily think. And there's also been theories, which some of them are out there a little bit. Native American mounds. A lot of them are supposedly buried there. I don't know how much I buy into that, but I have heard theories like that. I've heard of them burying their own. They do supposedly have a human element to them. So that's a possibility, right? It's not totally out of the realm of possibility. Again, we're dealing with something that isn't scientifically discovered.
Yeah.
So why would you leave any stone unturned? Why would you leave any theory shunned upon? You know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense to me. How are we doing ourselves in this field justice
Absolutely.
if we don't look at everything?
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Mike, anything you want to ask?
Extra large. Yep, I've lost a little weight, but thanks for noticing.
I did notice, actually.
Yep.
I said you look good.
Yep, I'm good.
I had a question on the tip of my tongue, and then I just listened to you, and I totally lost what I was.
That's so weird. That happens to me a lot. That's so weird. No, I think. Well, I think. All right. So one thing I want to say to Mike is that Mike has a great theory and I want to utilize this theory. We want to try to bring this to New England more.
Yeah.
New England needs to be recognized on the map as a major Sasquatch hub, and not because we want all you going out there acting like yahoos in the woods messing things up. We want you to respect it and understand it. We have more trees in the Northeast, and you brought this point up, than anywhere in America.
Yeah.
It makes no sense if you're out in the Pacific West Coast telling me about the forests and the forest people and all that crap, and you don't put us on the map when we have more forests than you. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
It makes no sense to me. If you think they can exist out there, they can't exist here.
Yeah.
So I think as New Englanders, we all need to come together as one,
Yeah.
including Alex, and I'm glad to see him here today because he has.
Because there is a little bit of beef with some of the New England people.
There is. Well, there's
Some of the organizations.
and it's funny, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
And
Are you talking about?
one of them's a little over my shoulder.
Yeah. Well, I think it's not so much beef, but theory,
Yeah.
and the theories rub the wrong way.
Yep.
So, and that's what I'm talking about. When you're a researcher and you go out into the woods, it is not my place to shit on your methods,
Yeah.
right? We should be good to each other as people anyways in general, right? Shouldn't we?
Sure.
But you sure as hell going to be, oh, that guy believes in structures, don't listen to him. Well, maybe if you listen to me, you might learn something.
Right.
Because I'm out in the woods a lot looking specifically for those while you're walking by them,
Yeah.
right? And then you say, hey, come out here and just sit. Don't knock on a tree. I don't go, that's stupid. No, I sit and listen.
Right. I think there's something that you hit on the head when you said, no stone unturned.
Right.
So my approach when I go in, I literally label everything that I know.
Yeah.
Everything that I see, from rocks to plants to
Yep.
trees to terrain. And then you start taking the unknown and you can isolate it.
Yes.
And then, like what you said,
Yep.
you start, how did that happen? Was
Yeah.
it natural? Do you, like thumbs? You need thumbs to do that.
Right. Yeah.
Those are intriguing questions, and those are the things that I think people like us can put together so that we can find the scientists down the road that are willing to take a look at the evidence and kind of create
That's right.
a picture.
That's right. Because it's down the road that matters. We keep forgetting that.
Yeah.
Down the road is what matters. It's not necessarily about today and your theory today. Your theory is probably going to change.
Right.
I've never seen a Bigfoot standing there making a structure. I've never claimed that. I'm not saying that. I'm a 95%er. One's never stood in front of me.
Right.
I've been flanked by him 3 times. I've had things thrown at me. I've heard the samurai conversation with Dave McCollough in my woods and my property. We heard it. We listened to it. It's real. So I'm a 95%er. But if we start closing these things off, then what do we do down the road? Shut it down and go home? Right?
Right.
We're going to miss out. Everybody's worried about DNA. Well, guess what? You don't have any DNA. It don't matter. It comes up as unknown. Hey.
Absolutely.
So what are we looking for that for?
Right.
It comes up as unknown, man.
Exactly.
We're all looking for, let's look for the unknowns unknown.
Yeah. Right.
What? Doesn't make any sense to me. So if we just stay open-minded, respectful with each other, with passion about this subject, and put the best foot forward and go in as boots on the ground investigators, I think we're going to get a lot further
Absolutely.
than if we just crap all over each other. So I go out in the woods a lot.
Yeah.
I can kind of tell what the magic whirlwind does and what the magic whirlwind doesn't do. And that's where I kind of, uh-oh.
He's in an interview.
Oh, what do you mean he's in an interview? He's
No.
we'll do another song.
Yeah, sing away! Sorry about that.
Pick a personality today.
Freebird!
The whole thing. All 8.5 minutes.
Freebird!
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back.
That's what happens. I'm sorry.
So you mentioned structures. Let me ask you this.
Mike Tinsley's up first.
Love it.
Are you ready? Yep. Here we go, Mike Tinsley. I was waiting for. Oh no, no, Jody, cut your bull's head off, roll down the stairs. Put your daddy in the dryer, put it on spin dry. That's what I was waiting for. Some kind of death metal. That was kick ass.
Sounds like my Chevy, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it does. Good job, Mike Tinsley. What's your name?
I'm Darren.
Everybody, this is Darren. This is Izzy's dad.
Yes.
Right? So you know where he learned it from, right, Izzy? That's right, girl. I got you, girl. Yeah, brother. Have fun. Yeah, that was a get away from me. Yours was like a musical. Like, come here. Pedro, man. You, my man. Hey, come on over, brother. Good to see you today. I met Pedro yesterday when I had a little tour around the area with Pedro and John, right? And Pedro works here and he does a lot of hard work, so I'm glad you decided to participate. Come on over. All you, bro. You ready? Whenever you're ready.
Okay.
What do you think Bigfoot sounds like? It doesn't matter.
Whoop.
You can do whatever. Whoop! Is that your call? Maybe. Do it again. Whoop! I like that. It's a pretty good whoop, right? Right? Where'd you learn that?
From you.
I did it yesterday on the woods and he's like, what?
Oh, by the way, John just said you're fired.
Yeah. Pedro's like, whoop! Pedro's like, whoop! See ya. And I know Linda. I did not forget. Now listen, you cannot cheat and sing.
Okay.
All right.
I'm like nervous. I'm like all nervous now. Like I talk on a microphone all the time.
All right, we good? Everybody good? Wait, that's a GoPro. Bro's got a GoPro on us. We know what we do with GoPros. What's up, girl? What's up, girl? Ready? Here we go. No, stand back. Laughter's on. All right, well, you guys lost. That was really good. I told you, use that singing voice. I knew it was going to come back to bite somebody. Well, everybody, it is my honor to introduce Alex Petikoff to you. Thank you very much for participating, sir. Can you tell everybody what you think of Bigfoot sounds like?
So I thought this was a Bigfoot calling.
Oh, it is, yeah.
Bigfoot, where are you?
Woo!
There you go. Told you I was gonna pull.
Wow, I didn't see it. I got to be
I didn't see that.
No, I didn't see that coming, right?
He goes, I'm gonna throw you a curveball.
Is that what he said to you?
No, what curveball?
You had the ins?
I didn't
Bro!
expect that was the complete.
You're my co-host. You could
I
have
didn't
just.
expect that.
You could have done the signal.
I was like,
Hey, you could have done the signal. Remember the thing?
was
Remember the thing? Like you know something? Yeah, the thing. All right, listen, everybody back up because we got a Wojo coming up. Wojo's my co-host on my podcast and a very good friend of mine. And he's, let's just say he's quite different. I'm normal. It's a Wojo thing. You wouldn't understand. You ready?
Yeah, you wanna hold it?
No, God, no. You want me to hold it, really? I've been out in the woods, bro. This is not pretty.
All right, I better hold it.
Okay, thank you. Back up.
I'm gonna pass out.
We got a what? We got a call?
And now it's my turn.
Oh, Dan.
Are you in on this?
All right.
not just background music. I have skills, man.
All right.
Ready?
Yeah, we're ready. It was weird. I just had a visual of Bigfoot in a Speedo. I'm just saying. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. I'll work on it. I'm in therapy. We'll see how it goes. Wow.
I can't imagine you stand.
All right, wait. I got to announce this, or you announce it? You're going to announce this? Wait. We have a special announcement from the judges.
All right, so in a turn of events, first of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out. Give them a round of applause. They did a phenomenal job. But if your name isn't Darren, Linda, or Wojo, you can take a seat. We got a little call-off happening here. You all placed identical scores.
Oh, boy.
So Wojo, get back over here. So we're going to do a call-off.
Now we do the strip off.
What the?
So we'll start with you, Darren, and we'll let you take it over here. Richie, you gotta take us back over because we gotta go.
Oh, you got a score? Okay, we're gonna do this again. I think we're gonna mix up the order though. Everybody spin around real fast. Everybody spin around, spin around, spin around, spin around. Left, right, left, right, left. No, come this way. You go that way. You go this way. You come this way.
I know how the game plays. That's why I didn't.
Right, see, you're smart.
Ladies first.
I have to sing after this.
Are you okay?
Yeah, you ready? I need some honey.
Need some honey,
I
honey!
need some sweetness. All right, here we go.
Whoa. Is that with an ER in the end? I caught that.
I think she won.
I mean, she used her singing vocals. She wasn't supposed to use her singing vocals.
Hold on.
It was against the
One
rules.
guy yelling at me at a time. He's going, go Wojo, go Wojo.
I know, he's in a rush.
I know.
Let's go.
He's always in a rush.
All right, let's go.
Let's go, Wojo.
Joe. Joe. Yeah, you're gonna say Darren? Darren!
Hold on. Hold my pants on. That one.
Have fun with it, brother. Have fun with it.
That was a Bigfoot rap if I ever heard one.
I'm pretty sure it was just a drunk Bigfoot passing out.
I know.
Right before he hit the ground. Anything else, sir?
By unanimous decision, the winner of your 2024 Charmingfare Farm Bigfoot calling contest is Miss Linda. Well done.
Yeah, who's gonna take the picture?
Taking the picture.
Who's the picture?
We got a picture.
I take a picture.
Ready? One,
I had all notes.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I can only suck in my gut for so long.
Yeah, so Richie, we're just gonna